The twin suns of Urindor were sinking slowly behind the silver dunes, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and gold. The wind carried the faint scent of glowing flora from the palace gardens, where the alien Princess Lyra walked alone. Her steps were measured and calm, yet there was a hint of hesitation in her movements. For as long as she could remember, she had been different. Not because of her royal status, but because of the scars on her face, pale, jagged lines that marked her skin like constellations against the alien glow. They were remnants of a childhood accident, a memory that brought pain and caution. From the moment Lyra had learned to walk, people had noticed the marks. Some whispered behind her back, others avoided her entirely. Even in her own palace, a place meant for comfort and love, she often felt invisible. The courtiers, who should have been her friends and allies, barely acknowledged her presence. Children, curious yet cruel, would stare and then giggle, calling her names she would never forget. Over time, Lyra learned to move through the world carefully, holding herself with quiet dignity while keeping her heart guarded. Despite the rejection and the loneliness, Lyra possessed a natural curiosity about life beyond her palace. Her fascination was not with the wealth of her world, nor with the endless halls of her royal home. She was captivated by the humans who had recently arrived on Urindor. They were explorers, scientists, and travelers from distant star systems. They carried with them a vitality that seemed to light up even the most shadowed corners of her heart. She had watched them from afar, noting their bravery, their laughter, and their tendency to see beauty where others saw only the ordinary. Lyra often climbed to the highest tower of the palace to observe them. From that vantage point, she could see the humans moving across the dunes, examining glowing plants, documenting strange patterns in the sand, and communicating with gestures that were almost like dance. She felt a pull toward them she could not explain, a connection that went beyond the curiosity of an observer. She wanted to meet them, to learn from them, but she feared their first impression would be shaped by her scars. She had grown accustomed to disappointment, and yet a small spark of hope lingered deep inside her. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon and the first stars appeared, Lyra wandered to the gardens, where the soft glow of alien flowers illuminated winding paths. She paused by a small fountain, watching water shimmer like liquid crystal under the moonlight. It was a quiet moment, peaceful yet tinged with longing. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw movement. A human was walking toward her. He moved with ease and confidence, his steps steady, and yet there was a gentleness in the way he observed his surroundings. His dark hair was neatly kept, and his eyes reflected curiosity and kindness. He was tall, and his posture exuded quiet strength, but it was the warmth in his gaze that made Lyra's heart skip a beat. She recognized him from the human group she had been observing, Kellen, the leader of the explorers, rumored to be the most handsome of all. Tales of his adventures had traveled even within her palace walls, though Lyra never cared much for stories of heroics. What captured her attention now was something far simpler, the authenticity she sensed in him. Kellen stopped a few paces away, noticing Lyra for the first time. Their eyes met, and for a moment the world felt still. He did not recoil at her scars. He did not avert his gaze. Instead, he gave a small, respectful nod, a silent greeting that carried no judgment. Lyra felt a mixture of surprise and relief. For the first time, someone had truly seen her, not the princess with scars, not the child the court ignored, but her, standing alone in the garden, watching the stars. She swallowed her nervousness and spoke softly. "Hello," her voice was melodic, though tinged with hesitation. "Hello," Kellen replied, smiling gently. "I'm Kellen. I didn't expect to see anyone here at this hour." Lyra nodded, her fingers brushing the petals of a glowing flower beside her. "I like the quiet," she said. "The humans, they are loud sometimes. I prefer this place." Kellen's eyes followed her movements as she gestured toward the flowers. "It is beautiful," he said. "I've seen many worlds, but I have never seen plants like these. Their colors, they change depending on the light." Lyra's lips curved into a small smile. "Not just the light," she said. "The flowers change with the emotions of those near them." She pointed at a blue blossom that shifted to a gentle green as Kellen approached. "See, you are curious, so the flower senses your interest." Kellen laughed softly, a sound that seemed to harmonize with the whispering wind. "I suppose that means it likes me?" Lyra chuckled lightly, the first true laughter she had felt in days. The sound felt strange, yet freeing, like sunlight spilling into a long-shadowed room. They began to walk together along the winding paths of the gardens, talking about simple things, plants, stars, the patterns of sand, and the strange differences between human and Urandorian life. Kellen asked questions, genuinely curious about her knowledge of the planet, and Lyra answered, eager to share what she knew. As the evening stretched into night, they reached a small overlook where the twin moons hung low in the sky, their silver light spilling over the dunes like liquid silver. Lyra leaned on the railing, feeling a sense of peace she had never known in her palace. Kellen stood beside her, not too close, yet not distant, a quiet presence that made her heart feel lighter. "You have a deep understanding of this world," he said. "Most humans wouldn't notice the details you do. They see only what is in front of them, but you see the connections." Lyra looked at him, surprised by his words. "I have spent a long time alone," she admitted. "I observe, I listen, that is how I understand the world." Kellen nodded thoughtfully. "And that makes you remarkable. I don't think I've met anyone like you." His gaze held hers, steady and sincere. For a moment, Lyra felt a warmth she had never experienced before, an acknowledgement of her worth beyond appearances or titles. The conversation moved to their dreams and curiosities. Lyra told Kellen about her fascination with distant stars, the ones humans called constellations, and how she imagined traveling among them, seeing worlds no Urandorian had ever known. Kellen shared stories of his journeys across galaxies, of worlds filled with strange skies and seas, of people who believed in kindness even when danger lurked around them. Lyra listened, enthralled, her heart expanding with each word. Hours passed unnoticed. The palace behind them seemed distant and unimportant compared to the universe opening up before her. Lyra realized that for the first time, she was not defined by her scars, her solitude, or the whispers of the court. She was simply herself, standing beside someone who truly saw her. Then the air shifted slightly, carrying a faint scent of metal and the hum of human technology from the camp below. Lyra glanced down and saw other humans settling for the night, unaware of the quiet moment unfolding above. Kellen followed her gaze and smiled. "They are remarkable," he said, "but I think some moments are meant to be shared between two people, not a crowd." Lyra's smile deepened. "I agree," she whispered. Her voice, soft yet full of meaning, carried across the breeze. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel hope, not the fragile kind that crumbled under scrutiny, but a steady, growing hope. Perhaps she could be more than what others expected of her. Perhaps there were people who would see beyond the surface, who would value her mind, her spirit, her courage. And perhaps, just perhaps, she had found one of those people standing quietly beside her, under the glow of twin moons and silver sands. As the night deepened, Lyra and Kellen remained in the garden, talking and observing the world around them. They discovered shared interests, small joys, and the simple delight of company. Lyra laughed more freely than she had in years, and Kellen listened with genuine interest, his eyes reflecting a respect that made her feel safe. She realized that this connection was rare, a spark that could not be forced or demanded. It simply existed quietly like the hidden glow of the flowers around them. Lyra finally spoke, her voice tinged with wonder. "I have never met a human who listens like you do. Most see only what they want to see or what they are told to see. You notice everything. You notice me." Kellen reached out, hesitated, and then lightly touched her hand. The gesture was careful, respectful, yet filled with warmth. "I do," he said simply. "I see you, Lyra. Not the scars, not the title, just you." Lyra felt a wave of emotion she had long kept buried. Relief, joy, and a strange sense of freedom washed over her. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen. And in that moment, she understood something powerful. Being noticed for who you truly are is far greater than any recognition from the court, any praise from strangers, or even the fleeting approval of the world. The twin moons rose higher, casting silver light over the gardens. Lyra and Kellen stood side by side, silent for a moment, letting the stillness speak for them. It was a beginning, a first step into something entirely new. A bond had been formed, not of convenience or duty, but of mutual respect, curiosity, and the quiet recognition of one soul by another. For the first time in years, Lyra felt a gentle thrill of anticipation. The future was unknown, vast, and shimmering with possibilities. And though she did not yet know what awaited her, she understood one truth. Sometimes the universe chooses for you in ways that are better than anything you could imagine. And as the night embraced them, the alien princess, once alone and unwanted, found herself standing at the threshold of a new chapter. A chapter where hope, friendship, and the courage to be herself could blossom in ways she had never dared to dream. The next morning, the twin suns of Erendor rose slowly above the silver dunes, spilling soft gold light across the palace gardens. Princess Lyra woke earlier than usual, her mind still replaying the quiet moment she had shared with Kellen the previous night. For the first time in years, she felt a spark of something she had long forgotten: anticipation. Her scars no longer weighed on her mind as heavily as they used to. Instead, she felt a growing curiosity about the human beside her. Lyra prepared for the day carefully, though not for appearances. Her mind wandered to thoughts of Kellen, his calm confidence, his kind eyes, and the way he had looked at her as if the world had no value without her in it. She had observed humans from afar before, but none had ever reached her in this way. And yet a quiet doubt lingered. Would his attention last? Humans were far from her world. Perhaps their fascination would fade once the novelty of Erendor wore off. Before she could dwell too long on these worries, a soft knock came at her chamber door. "Princess Lyra," a voice called. She turned to see Tressa, her loyal attendant, standing with a gentle smile. "Good morning, Your Highness," Tressa said. "Shall I prepare breakfast for you in the gardens? The light there is beautiful this time of day." Lyra nodded, feeling a sense of comfort in Tressa's presence. The attendant had known her since she was a child and had always been one of the few who treated her without reservation. "Yes, Tressa, prepare it there. I would like to be outside for the morning." Moments later, Lyra stepped into the gardens, greeted by the soft hum of alien insects and the delicate rustle of leaves in the wind. The air was cool, and the flowers glowed faintly in the early sunlight, their colors shifting from silver blue to soft lavender. Kellen was already there, kneeling beside a patch of radiant flowers, examining them with careful attention. His brow was furrowed slightly, though not in frustration. It was the look of someone fully absorbed in wonder. Lyra approached quietly, not wanting to disturb him. "Good morning," she said softly. Kellen looked up, his face lighting with a warm smile. "Good morning, Princess Lyra. I didn't expect anyone so early." "I like mornings," she said simply. "They are quiet and full of possibility." Kellen's gaze lingered on her for a moment, and then he nodded. "I agree," he said. "There is a calm in the early light, and the world seems more honest somehow." Lyra smiled at the words. Humans had a way of expressing themselves that was simple yet profound. She felt herself drawn to Kellen in ways she could not explain, as if a thread invisible to everyone else connected them. Together, they wandered along the winding paths of the gardens, stopping occasionally to observe a flower or a small creature that had scuttled across the stones. Lyra found herself speaking more freely than she had in months, answering Kellen's questions with a mix of curiosity and excitement. "What are these flowers called?" Kellen asked, pointing to a cluster that glowed a soft turquoise. "Those are called lumivines," Lyra replied. "They bloom only during certain phases of Erendor's moons. Their glow changes with the mood of anyone nearby." Kellen knelt beside one, holding out a hand carefully without touching the plant. "So if I were happy, it would glow differently?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, try it." He closed his eyes briefly, imagining calm and joy, and the flower shifted from turquoise to a gentle green. Kellen opened his eyes, laughing softly. "Incredible," he said. "It reacts to emotions. That is remarkable. You must know so much about these plants." "I do," Lyra admitted. "I've studied them since I was little. Erendor has many secrets, and the plants are just the beginning." As they walked, Lyra spoke of her fascination with the twin moons, the history of her planet, and the patterns of energy that ran beneath the silver sands. Kellen listened intently, asking questions and sharing stories of distant worlds he had visited, planets with skies that burned green, oceans that glimmered with bioluminescence, and cities built in harmony with nature rather than against it. Each tale drew Lyra deeper into a world beyond her palace walls, filling her imagination with new possibilities. Time passed unnoticed. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the gardens, and still they wandered together, talking, laughing, and discovering small details that made each moment feel significant. Lyra felt a warmth spreading through her chest, a sense of belonging she had never known. Kellen's attention was steady, unshaken by her appearance or the whispers of the palace. He saw her, truly saw her, and it filled her with a quiet courage. Eventually, they arrived at a small overlook where the dunes stretched endlessly, silver sands glinting like scattered gems. Lyra leaned on the railing, gazing at the horizon. Kellen stood beside her, silent for a moment, taking in the view. "Do you ever wish to leave all of this behind?" he asked finally. "To travel, to see other worlds, to experience things no one here could imagine?" Lyra considered the question. "I do," she admitted. "I have always wondered what lies beyond Urindor, but I have responsibilities and people expect certain things from me. Still, I cannot stop imagining." Kellen smiled gently. "It is rare to meet someone who dreams freely despite expectation. Most people let the world decide for them. You seem different." Lyra felt a blush rise to her cheeks. "I am different," she whispered. "I have always been different. That is why I am alone." "You are not alone," Kellen said firmly. "Not with me here, and not for long if you allow it. There are others who will see your worth once they understand you. Your scars, your differences, they do not define you. You define yourself." The sincerity in his voice touched something deep within her. For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to hope that someone could value her for who she truly was. She had spent years hiding her feelings, her curiosity, and her joy. But with Kellen, she could feel the boundaries lifting, the weight of judgment dissolving into the warm air of the morning. They spent the rest of the day exploring the secret corners of the palace. Kellen followed Lyra through hidden stairways, behind ivy-covered walls, and into chambers filled with ancient texts and forgotten artifacts. She showed him drawings she had made of constellations, maps of hidden streams beneath the palace, and her careful notes on plant growth cycles. Kellen was amazed at her knowledge, but more than that, he was amazed at the passion with which she shared it. "You have an incredible mind, Lyra," he said as they paused to rest beside a small pool reflecting the sky. "You see connections that others overlook. You notice details that most would miss. That is a rare gift." Lyra felt a warmth in her chest. Compliments were not new, but Kellen's words felt different. They were not empty flattery. They were acknowledgement, recognition of the person she had always been beneath the surface. As evening approached, the twin moons rose, casting silver light over the palace gardens once more. Lyra and Kellen sat on a ledge overlooking the dunes, talking quietly about their hopes and dreams. Lyra spoke of her desire to explore other planets, to study unknown ecosystems, and to understand the mysteries of the universe. Kellen shared his experiences traveling through distant galaxies, learning from cultures vastly different from his own, and discovering the beauty in unexpected places. Their conversation moved naturally, flowing from one topic to another without pause. They laughed over small misunderstandings, marveled at each other's observations, and found joy in the simple act of sharing ideas. Lyra felt an ease she had never known, a sense that she could truly be herself without fear of judgment. At one point, Kellen reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. His fingers hovered over her scars, but he did not flinch, nor did he speak of them. Instead, he simply smiled. "You are extraordinary," he said softly. "Not in spite of who you are, but because of who you are." Lyra's heart fluttered. The words were simple, yet they carried weight beyond anything she had ever heard. She realized that true connection did not require perfection. It did not demand beauty in the eyes of others. It required seeing, understanding, and valuing the essence of a person. The night deepened, and the palace grew quiet. The hum of nocturnal insects filled the air, and the glow of flowers illuminated their path as they walked back toward the inner gardens. Lyra felt a growing certainty within her. She was no longer just the princess with scars, invisible and overlooked. She was someone capable of being seen, of being understood, of being chosen, not by duty, not by expectation, but by the free choice of another. As they reached the edge of the garden, Kellen paused. "Lyra," he said quietly, "I want you to know I see you. I do not care about the scars. I do not care about what others think. I care about the person you are inside. And I would like to know you better if you will allow it." Lyra felt tears well in her eyes, though they were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of relief, of joy, and of a profound sense of acceptance. For the first time, she felt fully recognized for her courage, her mind, and her heart. She nodded, unable to speak at first, then whispered, "Yes, I would like that too." They walked together back toward the palace, side by side, the glow of the flowers lighting their path. Lyra realized that this was the beginning of something extraordinary, a friendship, a connection, a bond that transcended appearances and expectations. In Kellen, she had found someone who valued her for her true self, and in herself, she had found the courage to accept that she was worthy of that recognition. The night carried on, and the palace remained quiet around them. Yet in the garden, amidst glowing flora and under the watchful gaze of twin moons, Lyra felt something she had never felt before: hope. Not the fragile kind that fades with a word or a glance, but a steady, growing hope that perhaps, just perhaps, the universe had chosen a path for her that was brighter and fuller than she had ever imagined. And so the alien princess, once overlooked and unwanted, began a new chapter of her life. A chapter filled with curiosity, friendship, and the quiet yet powerful knowledge that she could be seen, valued, and even chosen, not despite her scars, but with them as part of the remarkable story of who she truly was. The days that followed were filled with discovery, laughter, and quiet companionship. Princess Lyra found herself walking through the palace gardens every morning, searching for new flowers, hidden pathways, or secret alcoves where she could share her discoveries with Kellen. The humans, though initially cautious around the alien princess, began to notice the bond forming between her and their leader. They whispered softly among themselves, observing how she laughed freely, how her eyes shone with excitement, and how Kellen listened with unwavering attention. Lyra had never experienced such attention before. The court had always ignored her, dismissed her, or treated her with polite indifference. Children had whispered cruel words, and even the royal advisors had given subtle signals that she was not as important as her siblings or other members of the palace. But Kellen's presence changed everything. With him, she could explore without fear of judgment. She could share her knowledge of Erendor's flora and fauna, tell stories of her childhood, and discuss her dreams of seeing distant stars, all without the constant shadow of scorn. One morning, as the suns rose behind the silver dunes, Lyra led Kellen to a hidden stream she had discovered years ago. The water was clear and glimmered with a faint, natural light. Strange plants with translucent leaves dipped their tips into the stream, and small creatures, unfamiliar even to Lyra, scuttled along the edges, their shells reflecting the rising suns. "This place is magical," Kellen said, kneeling at the water's edge and letting his fingers ripple the surface gently. "I've seen many wonders in my travels, but this feels alive in a way I cannot describe." Lyra smiled, feeling a swell of pride. "I found it when I was very young," she said. "I would come here when I needed peace or when the palace felt too large and cold. It has always been a place where I can think." Kellen nodded, his eyes reflecting admiration. "It's beautiful, Lyra. And you make it even more beautiful by sharing it. Most people would keep a place like this to themselves." Lyra's heart warmed. She had spent so long feeling unseen that even small acknowledgments felt monumental. "I want you to see everything," she whispered. "Not just the beauty, but the details. The little things that most people miss. They matter to me, and I think they matter in a way to the world." For the rest of the day, they wandered along the stream, observing the life teeming in the water, touching petals that shimmered with subtle colors, and noting patterns that formed naturally in the sands. Kellen asked questions, each one thoughtful, and Lyra answered with excitement, realizing she had never felt such a natural flow of conversation before. There were no judgments, no hesitations, only curiosity, respect, and genuine interest. The humans at the camp below began to notice Lyra's growing confidence. Their skepticism slowly faded as they saw the way Kellen treated her, not as a princess to be admired from afar, but as an individual with intelligence, curiosity, and courage. Slowly, their attitude began to shift. They approached her to ask questions, to share observations, and even to seek her insight on matters related to the planet's energy patterns and plant life. Lyra realized that Kellen's presence had opened doors she had long assumed would remain closed forever. One afternoon, Lyra took Kellen to the palace's ancient library. Rows upon rows of scrolls, books, and crystal-bound records filled the tall shelves. Dust hung lightly in the air, disturbed only by the soft steps of their feet. Lyra's hands moved across the spines of old texts with reverence. "These are the records of Erendor's history," she explained. "Many people do not care for them, but I find them fascinating. They tell the story of our people, our discoveries, and even our mistakes. There is much we can learn from the past if we choose to see it." Kellen leaned over a scroll that depicted maps of distant moons and stars. "I had no idea," he said softly. "You know so much." Most humans would not even imagine these things exist, and yet you understand them fully. Lyra smiled faintly. I have spent my whole life studying, observing, learning, remembering. Knowledge is a way to connect to the world, even when it feels like the world is against you. Kellen looked at her thoughtfully. You have always felt alone, haven't you? Lyra nodded. Yes, because of my scars, because of how others treat difference. But I am learning that being different is not the same as being unwanted. Perhaps it is even a gift if one knows how to use it. The words hung in the air, and Kellen's eyes reflected admiration. It is more than a gift, he said quietly. It is a strength. And it makes you who you are. I admire you for it. Lyra felt her chest swell with an unfamiliar courage. She had long wished to be seen for who she truly was, and now, slowly, she was beginning to understand that someone had not only noticed her but valued her for her mind, her spirit, and her unique perspective. Over the following weeks, their bond deepened. Lyra and Kellen explored hidden parts of the palace, climbed towers to watch the moons, and ventured into the dunes with other humans accompanying them. Lyra's guidance helped the humans navigate treacherous paths, identify rare plants, and understand subtle patterns in Urindor's energy fields. Kellen marveled at her expertise, but more than that, he admired her courage and calm presence in situations others would find overwhelming. One evening, as the twin moons hung low in the sky, Lyra led Kellen to a secluded grove. The trees were bioluminescent, casting soft light over the ground, and the air was filled with the scent of flowers and the hum of nocturnal creatures. They sat on a smooth rock near the center of the grove, and Lyra spoke softly. Do you ever wonder, she said, why people judge so quickly, why they cannot see past the surface to the heart of a person? Kellen considered her question. I think it is fear, he said. Fear of the unknown, fear of difference, but not everyone is afraid. Some are willing to see what is beyond the surface if given the chance. Lyra looked at him, her eyes shining. And you are not afraid? Kellen shook his head. No, I see you, Lyra, not your scars, not your title, just you. Her heart raced at his words. She had dreamed of this, longed for it in moments of quiet longing, but hearing it spoken aloud was more powerful than she had imagined. She realized that the connection she felt with him was not just curiosity, it was trust, respect, and a growing affection that neither of them could ignore. As the days passed, Lyra's confidence grew. She no longer avoided the court entirely. Instead, she began to engage with the humans and Urindorians alike, sharing her knowledge, helping with exploration tasks, and guiding them through delicate terrain. Her presence became invaluable to the humans, who had once doubted her abilities. They began to approach her with questions, seek her opinion, and include her in their plans. Slowly, whispers of admiration replaced the whispers of doubt. One day, the palace advisors approached her with a subtle challenge. A rare energy storm was expected to sweep across part of the palace grounds, potentially damaging delicate gardens and experimental plants. Many of the humans panicked at the news, unsure how to protect the fragile flora. Lyra stepped forward calmly, examining the predicted patterns of the storm and considering the layout of the gardens. We can protect the most important sections if we act carefully, she said to Kellen. We need to guide the humans and the staff to reinforce supports and relocate sensitive plants. It will take coordination, but it is possible. Kellen nodded, admiration clear in his expression. Lead the way, he said simply. With Lyra's guidance, humans and Urindorians worked together efficiently. She directed the placement of protective barriers, coordinated teams to move fragile plants, and ensured every action minimized risk. Kellen followed closely, assisting where needed but allowing Lyra to take charge. Her knowledge, calm demeanor, and careful attention to detail made all the difference. By the time the storm arrived, the gardens were well prepared. The storm passed with minimal disruption, and the humans praised Lyra's skill, noting that her understanding of Urindor's energy currents had saved countless plants from damage. For the first time, Lyra felt that her abilities were fully recognized, not as a duty, not as a title, but as proof of her intelligence, bravery, and value. As night fell, Lyra and Kellen walked through the now stable gardens. The glow of bioluminescent flowers reflected on their faces, and the twin moons cast silver light over the dunes. Lyra felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She had faced the storm not with fear, but with confidence, and she had succeeded. Kellen's presence had been steady, supportive, and encouraging, yet it was her own strength and knowledge that had led the way. Kellen reached for her hand once more. "You are extraordinary," he said quietly. "Not because of your position or your scars, but because of who you are inside. You have courage, wisdom, and a heart that sees the world clearly. That is rare." Lyra felt tears well in her eyes, not of sadness, but of gratitude and joy. For the first time, she understood that true recognition did not come from beauty, titles, or outward appearances. It came from actions, knowledge, and the courage to be oneself. As they stood together under the silver light of the moons, Lyra realized that the whispers of the past, the doubts, the rejections, the loneliness, no longer held power over her. She had found someone who truly saw her, who valued her for her mind, spirit, and heart. And more importantly, she had discovered her own worth, independent of any approval or judgment from the world. That night, Lyra lay awake, thinking about the future. She envisioned adventures with Kellen, exploring distant planets, uncovering new discoveries, and sharing laughter under alien skies. She imagined her knowledge helping others, her courage inspiring those who felt unseen, and her heart finding the companionship she had always longed for. For the first time in her life, she felt whole. And in that feeling, she understood that being chosen, truly seen and valued, was not the reward for perfection, but the recognition of authenticity, intelligence, and courage. And so the alien princess, once overlooked and isolated, embraced a new reality, one where her scars were not a mark of shame, but a symbol of resilience, where her mind was not ignored but celebrated, and where her heart, once lonely, had found a companion who saw her for exactly who she was and chose her freely. The morning sun rose over the silver dunes of Urindor, spilling golden light across the palace gardens. Princess Lyra awoke with a quiet excitement in her chest. The days she had spent with Kellen had changed her in ways she had never imagined. Her scars, once a source of constant anxiety, no longer felt like a burden. She had discovered that her value was not measured by appearances, but by her mind, her courage, and her heart. And most importantly, she had found someone who truly saw her. Kellen was already waiting in the garden, examining the glowing lumivines near the fountain. When he saw her, he smiled, a soft warmth in his expression that made her heart flutter. "Good morning, Lyra," he said. "Did you sleep well?" Lyra nodded, smiling back. "Better than I have in a long time," she replied. "I was thinking about today and the things we could explore." Kellen's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "I am ready," he said. "Where shall we begin?" They wandered through the gardens, discussing plans for the day. Lyra showed Kellen a series of newly discovered plants that reacted to energy patterns in the sand. Each flower shifted colors, pulsing softly like tiny stars. Kellen knelt beside her, observing closely, asking questions with genuine interest. "You notice everything," he said. "It is remarkable. I have traveled to worlds filled with wonders, yet your attention to detail is unlike anything I have seen." Lyra smiled, a quiet pride swelling in her chest. "It has taken me years to see the patterns. The world teaches those who are willing to watch and listen." Their laughter echoed through the gardens as they experimented with the glowing plants, observing subtle color changes in response to their emotions. Lyra felt a joy she had never experienced in the court. Here she was free, not a princess defined by expectations or a person marked by scars, but simply herself, alive with curiosity and wonder. By midday, humans and Urindorians alike began to notice the changes in Lyra. Her presence had become magnetic. The humans approached her with questions, seeking her insights on the best paths through the dunes, the behavior of rare plants, and the patterns of energy that ran across the palace grounds. The Urindorians, who had once ignored her, began to respect her knowledge and guidance. Lyra felt a quiet satisfaction. For the first time, her abilities and intellect were recognized and valued. Kellen stayed close, supporting her without overshadowing her. He marveled at the way she led, guided, and inspired. "You are extraordinary," he said one afternoon as they helped organize a small expedition into the nearby dunes. "Not because of your title or your scars or your status, but because of your mind and your heart. Everything you do carries thought and care." Lyra blushed, feeling the warmth of his words settle deep within her. I never imagined someone would see me this way," she admitted. "Most people notice only the surface, but you see beyond it." Kellen reached for her hand, brushing his fingers lightly against hers. "I see you, Lyra," he said softly, And I choose to be by your side not because of what the world expects, but because I value the person you are." The words echoed in her heart. She had longed for recognition, for acceptance, for someone who would look past her scars. And now, standing here in the soft glow of the lumivines, she realized that she had found all of that and more. The following days were filled with exploration. Lyra and Kellen led the humans and the Urandorians across hidden valleys, through crystal-lined caves, and along streams that shimmered like liquid light. Lyra guided the team, her knowledge and intuition keeping everyone safe, while Kellen observed, assisted, and learned. Together, they formed a rhythm, Lyra's insight and Kellen's curiosity complementing each other perfectly. As they paused by a grove of towering silver trees, Lyra noticed something unusual. Tiny, glowing orbs floated among the branches, pulsing softly. She knelt to examine them. "These are called moon orbs," she explained. "They grow only in areas of pure energy. They react to emotions as well, but in a subtler way than the lumivines. Watch closely. They will glow brighter if your heart is calm and open." Kellen leaned over, watching the orbs. He closed his eyes briefly, imagining peace and curiosity. Slowly, the moon orbs glowed a gentle blue, shimmering softly. He opened his eyes, turning to Lyra with a small laugh. "Incredible," he said. "Even the energy of the heart can shape the world here." Lyra felt a thrill of joy. "It is a reminder," she said softly, "that the world responds to those who act with honesty and care. It is not just knowledge, but intention that matters." Kellen smiled at her. "And you, Lyra, have both. You think deeply and you care sincerely. That is a rare combination." The day continued with quiet exploration, laughter, and shared discoveries. Lyra realized that she had never felt so alive. The presence of Kellen and the respect and interest of those around her had transformed her understanding of herself. She was no longer defined by her scars, her isolation, or the whispers of the palace. She was defined by her courage, her curiosity, and her ability to see the world with clarity and compassion. As the twin moons rose that night, casting silver light over the dunes, Lyra and Kellen returned to the palace gardens. The humans and Urandorians gathered nearby, celebrating small successes and discoveries from the day. Lyra felt a quiet satisfaction as she watched them, realizing how much she had contributed, how much she had grown. Kellen turned to her, his expression gentle. "Lyra," he said quietly, "you have shown me so much. The beauty of this world, the intricacies of life, the strength of patience and observation. But more than that, you have shown me courage, kindness, and wisdom that I have never seen elsewhere. And I want you to know I am proud to stand with you." Lyra felt a lump in her throat, her emotions swelling. "Thank you," she whispered. I never imagined someone would feel this way about me, about who I truly am." Kellen smiled, his hand brushing hers once more. "You are extraordinary," he said. "And I choose to be with you, not for appearances or titles or stories others tell, but because of who you are inside. Your scars, your knowledge, your heart, they make you remarkable." Lyra felt tears of joy well in her eyes. She had spent so long hiding, wishing for acceptance, fearing rejection. And now, in the soft glow of the moon orbs and lumivines, she realized that she had found not only acceptance but admiration, respect, and friendship that could blossom into something greater. The following weeks brought new adventures. Lyra and Kellen explored distant caves filled with rare crystals that resonated with energy, discovered hidden groves where flowers responded to sound, and studied creatures that moved in harmony with the planet's subtle currents. Each day brought new lessons, and each lesson strengthened the bond between them. The humans began to rely on Lyra's expertise more and more, and even the palace advisors who had once questioned her abilities recognized her knowledge and insight. One evening, as they sat under the twin moons, Lyra reflected on the journey she had undertaken, not just across Urandor, but within herself. She had discovered courage she had not known, confidence she had not felt, and joy she had long forgotten. And she realized that the most important discovery of all had been Kellen. He reached for her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. "Lyra," he said softly, "we have shared so much already, and there is still so much to see, so much to learn. I want to explore it all with you. Not just the world, but life itself. Your thoughts, your dreams, your heart, I want to be a part of all of it." Lyra felt her heart swell. I want that too," she whispered. "I want to share everything with you, Kellen. Not just because you accept me, but because I trust you and I care for you." Kellen smiled, the warmth in his eyes reflecting the silver light of the moons. Then we will face the universe together, he said, not as princess and explorer, but as equals. As friends, companions, and perhaps more if time allows. Lyra laughed softly, the sound carrying through the quiet garden. Perhaps more, she echoed. As the night deepened, they walked through the glowing gardens hand in hand. The flowers and trees pulsed softly with light, a reflection of the calm and joy in their hearts. Lyra realized that true happiness was not about perfection or recognition by the world. It was about connection, understanding, and the courage to embrace oneself fully. For the first time, she felt entirely seen. Her scars were part of her story, but they did not define her. Her intelligence, curiosity, and heart had earned her respect. And above all, she had found someone who chose her, not for duty, not for appearances, but because of who she truly was. The palace, once a place of isolation and quiet whispers, now felt alive with possibility. Lyra walked beside Kellen, confident, joyful, and ready for whatever the future might bring. The twin moons cast their silver glow over the dunes, reflecting the light in her eyes and the certainty in her heart. And as the night embraced them, Lyra understood something profound. The universe may be vast, full of unknowns and challenges, but with someone who truly sees you by your side, even the widest horizons feel within reach. She had been overlooked once, judged by her appearance and underestimated by the world. But now she had been chosen freely for her mind, her courage, and her heart. Lyra smiled, feeling the warmth of Kellen's hand in hers, and knew that the story of her life was no longer defined by the scars of the past, but by the love, friendship, and possibilities of the present. Together, they gazed at the twin moons rising over the silver dunes, the first step of countless adventures awaiting them across the universe. The alien princess, once unwanted and overlooked, had found her place, not because she had changed, but because someone finally saw her for who she truly was. And in that moment, under the light of twin moons and the gentle glow of the Urandorian gardens, she knew that she had been chosen, and the future stretched before her, bright and boundless.